The government says they lost over 1 million Epstein documents. That's not true. They weren't lost. They were found late. Now it's 5 million pages. Millions of documents. Discovered after the deadline. And we're told this is normal. We're told this is procedure. We're told this is how transparency works. But systems don't forget evidence. They delay it. Because delay doesn't erase the truth. It waits for attention to move on. I'm Simon Paul Bennett, and you're watching The Nature's Code. I don't investigate people. I study systems and what they do when they're under pressure. And right now, this system is under pressure. Jeffrey Epstein is a name the public was never allowed to finish processing. Not because there wasn't information, but because the information never arrived in a complete form. There was an arrest, there were connections, there were allegations, and then there was a death. After that, the story didn't end. It fragmented. What followed was a promise that the full truth would eventually be released, that the files would bring clarity, that transparency would close the chapter. Instead, it opened something else.
I think it's very apparent in that specific letter that was just publicized from the Epstein files. I think it's very apparent that there are a group of men that enjoy the company of young women and children.
In response to public pressure, a law was passed. A deadline was established. The Department of Justice committed to releasing all unclassified Epstein-related material. The language was reassuring: victim protection, legal compliance, judicial oversight. All of it sounded responsible. But responsibility has a rhythm, and this rhythm was slow. The closer the deadline came, the more complicated the explanations became. More files, more review, more redactions, more time. Transparency on paper looked impressive. In reality, it became procedural. The deadline passed, the explanation wasn't denial. It was discovery. Millions of additional pages had been found, not years earlier, not during the original investigations, but after the law, after the deadline, after the pressure. This wasn't presented as failure. It was presented as diligence. But systems rarely reveal their shape by accident. They reveal it under stress. And stress produces delay, because delay absorbs outrage.
This whole thing is with Epstein is a way of trying to deflect from the tremendous success that the Republican Party has. Like, for instance, today we're building the biggest ships in the world, most powerful ships in the world, and they're asking me questions about Jeffrey Epstein. I thought that was finished.
Most people think redaction means something is hidden. That's not accurate. Redaction means something exists, but only in a form you can't challenge. Names removed, context fractured, meaning diluted. What remains isn't silence, it's noise. Thousands of pages, legal language, endless footnotes, so much information that clarity becomes optional. This isn't secrecy, it's control. When truth becomes overwhelming, it stops being dangerous. And if you're still waiting for names at this point, that's understandable. That's how stories like this are usually framed. But the real question isn't who appears in the files. It's who has the time, access, and authority to decide how the files appear. Epstein wasn't the structure. He was the interface, a single figure placed between the public and a much larger system. When blame concentrates on one name, everything else stays intact. Institutions survive by isolating damage, by distributing responsibility, by extending timelines. This is how systems outlive scandals, not by denying them, but by processing them. This pattern isn't unique. Large cases follow the same arc. Exposure, outrage, delay, volume, silence. Eventually, attention moves elsewhere. Not because answers arrived, but because waiting became exhausting. That's how modern accountability resolves. Not with closure, with fatigue. Maybe the system doesn't hide the truth. Maybe it releases it carefully. Legally, slowly, in pieces. Until knowing becomes harder than forgetting. And by the time everything is finally available, no one is really watching anymore.